Hey, welcome back. Dave Guerra here. Welcome to, I'm going to try something different. Not changing, not replacing anything, just adding something new to this whole thing and getting back into video a little bit more. Let's call it Coffee Talk. Coffee Talk with Dave and his Berlin coffee mug. And good morning. It's Saturday the 28th of June as I'm recording this, so I should have it out there a little bit later on. And again, it's going to be quick, short form, not replacing the podcast, but kind of adding to it. Not replacing the interviews, but again, adding to it. And so again, and what I'm talking about is I've been exclusively on podcast, and I've stepped away from video, and I needed to, I had to. There were some issues, and those are behind me. Those issues are behind me. Not all of them. There's one that still lingers, but okay, 2, maybe 3. But what I'm getting at is that we're never ever truly done. And sometimes you've just got to take the L. You just have to admit that, hey, it's never going to get resolved, and that's okay. It's never ever going to be fixed. The damage is done. It's permanent. It's never going to change. But what we can do is ensuring that it doesn't get worse. And how do we ensure that it doesn't get worse? We have to do what we have to do. We have to take the necessary steps to ensure that whether it's a physical ailment, mental ailment, relationship ailment, whatever it is, we need to ensure that it doesn't get worse. And we need to do, in some cases, we need to do what we need to do to ensure that it doesn't get worse. Because if it gets worse, what happens? It festers. It gets out of control, and unfortunately for too many people, it's too late. I didn't want to be one of those. I didn't want to be one of them. The moment there was an issue, I discovered it, I realized it, I wrapped my head around it, I jumped on it, and it's being addressed. Not 100%, I'd say about 96%. You know, that's pretty good. It's still an A. That's still an A. If we were in school, that'd be an A. That almost would be an A+, right? On the cusp of an A+. So not bad, but we got to work at it, because just as easily as it slipped from 100 to 96, it can slip from a 96 all the way down to a 52. And, well, 52 is an F. So, we don't want to fail. Right? So we have to take those steps. We have to do the things to ensure that it doesn't get worse. So before I ramble on any more about doing what we have to do, taking the L is today's subject, taking that loss. Sometimes we have to admit that, hey, things are never going to be the same. Things are always changing. Things are going to be what they have to be. And that being said, we have to learn to live with it. And learning to live with it is part of change. Part of change. And you know me, big proponent of change. I tell you change is happening. Change is all around us. Change will never stop. And if you can't accept change, if you can't accept that, hey, things have to change, I don't know. I really don't know. And I can't speak for you, but I can speak for myself. I change. Growing up, change. My father was in the military, and then my parents got divorced, and then I joined the military. Then I got married. Then I had a life. My wife and I had a life together before we had kids, and then we had kids, and now we're empty nesters, and so we got kids again. We have kids still, but they're adults now, and we have a home again. But the nice thing is we had that life before kids. So we kind of had that to fall back on. And I've heard horror stories that those that married right away and then they get to become empty nesters, they don't know what to do with themselves. Luckily we had that early time, so that works out. And along the way, a lot of change. I had a huge medical issue back in early 90s, and still here, still kicking. Sorry, folks, still kicking. But what I'm getting at is that change happens. You have a kid, life changes immediately. You get married, again, life changes. But I think the biggest change in life has been the kids, having children. And if you've never had children, you will one day. If you're a new parent, well, you're facing it now. Don't worry. It gets better. It doesn't get easier. It does get better. So because you're able to communicate with them a little bit more effectively, and they can communicate with you, hopefully more effective than they can now. But what I'm getting at is that change is going to happen. Change is all around us. And sometimes in that change is taking the L, taking that loss. That doesn't mean we take all the L's. No, it doesn't mean we do that, because what happens when you take all the L's? Exactly. You start to see yourself in a whole different perspective. But when you've taken W's and you've taken L's, you start realizing why the W's are so important and why the L's, taking the losses, is even more important, because you appreciate the wins even more. That's right, because you know what it tastes like to be at the bottom. And again, you enjoy the fruits of your labor, the rewards that you get when you get that W. So more W's in the W column than there are L's, but make sure there's L's in the L column. Make sure there's some numbers in the L column. You need them. You need them. Life's not perfect. You're not perfect. No one's I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. I'm far from perfect. I really, truly am. But what I'm getting at is that we need to take those L's, we need to enjoy them, we need to learn from them, we need to grow from them, and sometimes we need to realize that that L is just going to stay an L, and we got to move on. So moving on is something that is going to take time also to accept. It took me a while. Early on, facing my L's, knowing which battles I had to lose, which battles I really wanted to win, but I decided, it's just best to lose them for my own sanity and for my family, the family I made, for their sanity. And so we have to take the L's sometimes, and that's okay. That's okay. And sometimes those L's will never change. And same thing with the 96% situation I'm in. It's not an L, but it's not a W. And it's a W because it's not a 52, it's not an F, right? Not a fail, but it is an L. And it is a W, and it's an L. So you see, you gotta look at both sides. But there are people that refuse to look at both sides and would rather say, oh, this is just an L. This is just an L. So that being said, look at both sides. There's more than one side. All right, well, listen, I've taken up about 8 minutes of your time, so I want to thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back again periodically. Again, it's not a scheduled thing, just be periodically. And this has been Coffee Talk with Dave. Talk to you soon.